Greetings, hello world. Uh, this is your host, Elwin Green, and welcome to Mic Drops, monologues, interviews, and conversations with your host and whoever I can drag into the conversation to be with me. And on this episode, I'm really excited and grateful to have as my guest Ms. Maryn Formley, who is the executive director, am I getting that right, of VEEM. And I'm sorry, ma'am, I never get it right. There's too many E's.
There's so many.
VEEM, which is
Yes.
voter, okay, I know
Empowerment,
education.
education, and enrichment movement.
Okay, all right. Um, and so VEEM has been around a few years now, and I was trying to remember actually when and how we first met. I'm thinking that it was at an event that you had across the street from me in the basement of Baptist Temple. Does
Yep,
that sound right?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
pretty sure.
And this was just a typical kind of VEEM event, which was a nonpartisan, I want to emphasize that, a nonpartisan forum for voters to meet with candidates and hear from different candidates. I would like to begin simply by having you, ma'am, give us the background on V. How did it get started?
Sure. So it's really interesting, Mr. Elwin. My journey to being a founder of a nonprofit. I never thought that this would be where I ended up. I work for the county. In my regular life, I've been there for almost 20 years. I just kind of saw myself doing that path, and that was it. Some people I feel like kind of feel called and appointed to do community work from early on or
Mhm.
somewhere in their young adulthood, and they're just they seek to do it. It wasn't me. It wasn't me at all. It wasn't me. And so, but what happened is that 2017, it was the primary, the mayoral primary, which was big in Pittsburgh. My former pastor, Reverend Dr. John C. Welch, was challenging the incumbent Bill Peduto for the term of mayor in Pittsburgh. And, he had gotten up in front of the congregation and said, I need your help. Um, this is what God told me to do, and I need to do it. And, if anybody can help me, let me know. At the time, I'm actually in grad school at Duquesne University, working on my master's in leadership. Just again working and doing life. And I remember that it was the almost the end of the spring semester in grad school. I was going to school full time, or going to school part time and working full time. And Rev needed volunteers, and I'm like, yeah, Rev, I got you. As soon as finals, as soon as I'm done with my last paper, I got you. I'm gonna come out. So it is the weekend before the primary election, and I finally have a chance to go volunteer. So we are out in the South Hills. I think it's like Carrick or something like that, which is now my neighborhood, which is really hilarious because I've never been on this side of town before, and I'm over on this side of the bridges. But yeah, we're walking around Carrick or something, and we're trying to energize people and find out, hey, there's an election on Tuesday. Are you registered to vote? Are you voting? Are you registered? Are you going to participate? And the things that we're hearing, and I'll never forget, there was a couple, and the woman says, yes, I'm registered and I'm going to vote. And then the man says, oh, I'm not old enough yet. And I said, and we're looking at him like, you look like an adult. And he said, yeah, I'm not 21. And we're like, you only got to be 18.
Mm.
And he didn't know, right? So that was like thing number one. So then we started talking about what the plan would be for election day. Reverend John, and I've told this story 50 million times, so he won't mind. Reverend John, had a very small team to where we looked at the criticality of which polls do we need to be at that are going to have the most bang for our buck of no books, because we had no books.
Right.
And
Right.
so I get assigned to Homewood. And that's when I first become acquainted with Ward 13, and me being, kind of an analytical sort. I have this spreadsheet that tells me that, that these are the 19 precincts of Ward 13, and here's the addresses. And so I break them up and decide, well, I'm going to spend 45 minutes at each poll, that day. And
Wow.
so I started out my day, the fire station on Hamilton. I'm over at Baptist Temple, which is a precinct. I'm down at Carnegie Library. I'm all of these different places. I end up in East Hills at Imani School. All these different, and I'm outside and I'm just talking to potential voters. And all day I'm being challenged with the most interesting of topics. One thing that I noticed is that a lot of our people that look like us, we are involved in election day. We are very heavily involved in election day, but we are likely to be working the polls or handing out information for candidates and stuff like that. The voting part wasn't necessarily the main thing. It's I'm working at such and such a poll because poll work is paid. And a lot of, we're underpaid, right? We're looking for opportunities to get, so we're going to have a day, we're going to enjoy ourselves, all of that. And so that day, as I'm going around, I'm over at Homewood House. That's another good precinct. And one guy says, yeah, and I've got on my Vote for John Welch T-shirt, and I got my papers, I'm handing them out or whatever. And so somebody says, oh yeah, I want to, I like what he has to say, because at the time, Reverend John was the one who pulled out the issues about the water and about, the lead in our lines that they're finally getting to, right, as they're replacing all these lines. But nobody was talking about that water quality back then, and that was something that he really did bring to the forefront. And so somebody said, yeah, I like what he has to say. And he's like, but I'm assigned to this poll all day. I'm giving out information for such and such, whoever such and such might have been, because I don't remember anymore. And I can't leave, or else I won't get paid. And he's like, and this is at my polling place. And I'm like, so you didn't make arrangements to vote? And he's like, nope.
Okay.
And I was like, oh.
Time out.
Yep.
You came across poll workers who did not vote or weren't.
Right. It happens a lot, because you are stuck you're at the mercy, whether you are handing things out as a volunteer or a paid person for a campaign, or you're being paid by the county to be a poll worker. You are supposed to get a break to be able to go vote, because you could be assigned anywhere.
Okay.
But and this is going back to my county side, because now county workers, it's always been county workers, but now county workers are more, at least in my department, like we're more likely to be drafted to work, because the workers who have to produce the election have to be county. And so the ones that are kind of at the, we have to be hired by the county or whatever. So we have to help be rovers and such like that. So I've learned a lot on this opposite side of things, getting ahead of my story. But I've given rides to poll workers as I've come around to go check on them, and they said, I didn't vote. Would you mind taking me? And I'm like, yeah, come on, get in this car and come on and vote. I'll drop you off down the street at such and such precinct that's yours, because you're not assigned to your precinct.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, so that was a thing. That was a common theme that day. There was a common theme of just people who didn't know any better. I had a conversation with somebody from the parties, a party ward chair, who was like, oh, well, I like him. I like Reverend Welch and all, but, just throwing this out here, and won't say any names to protect the innocent. But, I like him, but, he didn't come to us. And I said, what do you mean? He didn't come to our party's committee to talk to us about why we should vote for him. or he didn't come for endorsement. And I said, oh. And I said, did you know that your endorsement costs X amount of dollars? Because that was something that we were told. And I'm like, we're a small campaign. We didn't have that. And they're like, oh, well, I mean, they still could have come to us. And I'm like, he couldn't have come to you. Like, it was like a pushback. Then it was like, well, you know what? Maybe he could be the black mayor to the white mayor. And I said, excuse me? And they said, yeah, that we can have our own election and in the room and decide that he can be our black mayor and he'll be the one to go take all of our issues to Peduto. And I was like, and I'm looking like,
okay,
it's a joke.
Would that
What's happening right now? And then they said, well, we would still have to have an election though. Oh, so okay, well, that's my time at this poll. Let me get on out of here. So that's the type of stuff I was dealing with all day. So then finally, about 5 o'clock, Homewood done dried up. It's a primary. It's not the presidential. Like, it's dried up.
Right.
So the campaign manager is riding around, checking on, everybody. And she said, you know what? Why don't you go over there to Squirrel Hill? It's still popping at the JCC at the Jewish Community Center. I said, okay. So I go over there, and, there's also a lot of judges on the ballot. And the people that are there also have all kinds of questions. But what's the difference between a magistrate and a Commonwealth Court judge? And what's the difference between Commonwealth Court and Superior Court judge? And so I was just left with a feeling, and, obviously he didn't win, and turnout was pretty bad. But even still, I was left with an unsettled feeling about people really don't get the importance of this. People are not, they're not plugged into this. They don't recognize that change can happen, right? And, this was also, we had been in the Obama years, and then, but it's 2017. So we didn't had a year of an administration change, and a lot of hopelessness is going on. And I'm like, but there is hope. You can elect, people if you want to, if that's what you want to do. And so I leave election night like, somebody used to do this, right? Didn't there used to be organizations and I start fact finding, and I'm like, who does this? This don't make sense for this turnout to be so low. This don't make sense. What is going on, right? So, as I'm asking around, and then, I'm hearing this like still small voice type of stuff, like, okay, this for you to do. And I'm like, no, listen here, and I am, on the faith, and, believe in the Lord and all of that stuff. And so I'm like, nah, that ain't, that's funny. Nope. And we actually, at my church at Bidwell in the north side, we just happened to be also having a revival like later that week. So election night was Tuesday, and then, revival was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I think it was Dr. Alan Waller from Enon who was our revivalist, I think, because it's been a while now. Every single night of this revival, I'm getting confirmation that yes, this is what you're supposed to do. And I'm like, God, I don't know what you're talking about. This is crazy. It can't be me.
Wrong number.
Yeah, I work at the county, I'm good. But I do start sketching ideas out. I'm like, no, that's not me. So finally, after Friday, I hear the word again. I said, all right, okay, so just so I know it's not my imagination, or it's not the hype of the revival, because, revivals are real hype, right? I was like, tell me Sunday morning. Tell me Sunday morning, and then I promise I'll say yes. If you tell me on Sunday morning, I know it's really you and not just me being all hype.
Okay.
Sunday morning, sure enough, heard the same thread of message. I was like, all right. So I went to go talk to my pastor, Pastor Denise Welch, and say, hey, God said I had to start an organization, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And that's literally how VEEEM started.
Okay.
From God Said So. And what ended up happening, the quick story, that was 7 years ago, so we're about to celebrate our 7th year. And And, you know, she told me who I needed to talk to, what I needed to do, who needed to be on my team. And as she was telling me what to do, the different pieces of the pie were all falling together. These people were already in my circle, my initial board members, my founding. A lot of them were already good friends and, folks that I had known for years. And so, and they had the pieces of the vision, because I'm like, I'm not someone who's really that much civically educated. I don't know how this really works. At that time, I had no idea. Now I'm a voting rights expert.
Okay.
I've learned to be the expert along the way. I mean, I knew how to go vote. I knew how to register and go vote. That's what I would do. I knew how to Google people's names and see, but that was it. I've learned so much with this organization and with the amazing people who are on my board and who have been on my board over the years and have, might not be on the board anymore. They have really energized and educated me. And so now I educate others. And it turned out that this work has ended up being my entire passion. And I didn't know, I had no idea this was out here, that this was waiting to happen. But I'm still at the county, and and now I'm the ED of this organization that's 7 years old almost.
All right. Well, that is a fascinating story, and I'm grateful that all of that happened, because you have been doing the work along with your team. Does VEEM have any actual employees, or all of your folks volunteers?
That's a great question. So over the years, what has happened is that, and I know you have on the slate to talk about the data, but basically what happened is that as we started to decide what our focus was going to be and what were going to be the things that we worked on, we really landed on trying to do what we could to educate potential voters, because we believe that, and this is the type of session that you met us at, is if we can tell you what's happening and what's going on and why this matters, then we can make you a super voter, right? And so, but what we did, though, we came from a data perspective about, like, this is what turnout is. A lot of people focus on voter registration. A lot of organizations focus on voter registration. But for us, when we dug into the numbers and we see that, on average, only 20%, like if we already have 1 million registered voters and only 20% of those voters are actually showing up, you could overturn elections with an additional 20% of people that are already registered to vote. Now, yes, voter registration matters for the folks who are not registered, but who's going after the 80%? VEEM really exists for that 80% on average that aren't showing up. That's what we're here for. We will register voters. We do believe in that, and we'll help with all those type of things. But really, we're trying to get to that 80% that have registered to vote and that they don't come out for whatever the reasons might be. So if the barriers are transportation, which actually usually isn't true because we have so many precincts here in Allegheny County. If the barrier is, you got to work 3 jobs and, you're on a bus line and you can't get back to your, teaching you about mail-in voting, right? If the barriers are, I have no idea who to vote for. I don't know who these people are. I don't know what their job is, so we come from that perspective with VEEM. And so, as when you met us, we were there in the Baptist Temple basement, and we were having a good old time with, folks like you and people who went to Baptist Temple, especially shout out to the choir who would be upstairs rehearsing and then come on downstairs for VEEM. I loved it. Mm-hmm. But what we recognized, though, is that was a certain demographic of people who were already voters. We weren't getting to the people who are not voters because they're not going to show up for something like that. Food, having dinner is not a motivation enough. So we realized that we needed to start building relationships. And that's when we got into integrated voter engagement, which is a program that exists and has a national model. And so we're a part of State Voices, specifically Pennsylvania Voice. And when we got connected with them for voter data, so we could find out who was registered, who wasn't registered, who's voting, who's not voting, and how can we talk to these people and target these people where we launched, which is Ward 13. It's just where I was that day, and so that's where we launched, so Homewood and East Hills. And, they started getting us connected to resources. and also said that, but we need you to knock this amount of doors, which is called turf coordination. Because, we're not going to have the same 4 organizations all knocking the same doors. We're going to split it up, right? And so in that, when we said, oh, we went home with the East Hills, well, who's going to knock all these doors? And for VEEM, we were all either working full-time or retired full-time, which means we don't have the time to go knock all these doors. And so that is when we started to bring on staff. So to your point about, we do not have employees because we don't have benefits. And so you cannot legally have an employee without benefits. But we do have contracted staff that are part-time during the summer and full-time during the election seasons. And we have 2 that work for us, year-round. Our community organizer and our lead canvasser, who are amazing. And then when it's actually like the 2 weeks of us doing the coordinated voter engagement efforts, we hire seasonal staff that we pay them to help us knock the doors, make the phone calls, text the people, all those things of people showing up at your house, different people, right, trying to engage you, they're texting you, it's coming up as spam. Yeah, we're a part of that, unfortunately.
Hey.
I send the text myself, and so it says, oh, it's Maryn from VEEM. Hi. That's coming through as an auto text.
You got to do what you got to do.
Listen.
I'm trying to figure out, so for viewers, this episode is being recorded on July 24th, and not all of our episodes are going to be as time specific as this one. I'm giving this date because it has now been there, let's see, what is it? About 10 days since the shooting at the Trump rally, and 3 days since Joe Biden announced that he would not be running. So the entire political landscape is shifting under our feet, and it feels like it's almost happening on a daily basis. And again, a reminder to everyone, VEEM is a nonpartisan organization. So I'm not going to ask her to try to say anything for or against any particular candidate, anything like this. But at the same time, we have to acknowledge, right, that things have changed dramatically in just the past week and a half. And I guess the first question that I want to ask about the contours of this new landscape, right? Is, do you believe that I'll back up a step first, because prior to this weekend, a lot of people were expressing discontent with a rematch of 2016. Right? Like, how did this even happen? Right? And frankly, some folks were even saying things like, I don't want to vote for either of them. Right? And America kind of has in general, America does not do well with voter turnout in comparison with any other modern democracy. Okay?
Yep.
Okay. We can give y'all numbers later if you need them. Okay.
That's right.
But so there's kind of like a real possibility of the turnout this time around being lower than it should be because so many people don't like the choice being presented.
That's right.
So all of that is to lead up to the question. Do you believe that Biden's withdrawal and the pending nomination of Kamala Harris might make a difference in voter turnout?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So I will tell you that prior to, these last couple of weeks, and I would even venture to say it's not just the Biden step down and the Kamala, running and endorsement. I would say even the event that happened the weekend before with the assassination attempt of former President Trump, that also had the tide turning. So we've really been in a tide turning for 2 straight weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Prior, though, to both of those events, I'd said to you, like, that's when you have me quoted in the newspaper talking about, like, yeah, I don't know if people are going to come out at all, but also because I could see it as an executive director, in 2020, this time of year, we were getting random donations from foundations and IRA funds and protected, like, I'm like, where did they find us? They were just Googling who's working to increase voter turnout in Pittsburgh, because Pennsylvania is a swing state. And they were just, like, we were getting invitations to apply for grant. Like, it was crazy in 2020 in the middle of the pandemic. Money was coming everywhere, okay? And so I could kind of tell. So what happens is that, and you learn this, in this space, is that every 4 years, the election repeats. The same offices get elected every 4 years. A little bit different with, like, that, 6-year terms and things of that nature, but there's not too many of those. But for the most part, right, so not just the president, but also it's Congress and it's Senate and it's, like, that's always happening, right? And so we noticed, like, whoa, people aren't talking about this. People aren't asking us to talk about this. People aren't inviting us to talk about this. We're calling and saying, hey, can we come talk about this? And people are like, Like, everybody was feeling away, and you could just kind of feel it. So our strategy at VEEM was like, okay, we know that people do not want to vote and don't really want to deal with this presidential race. It is ugly, it's gross, it's icky, like, nobody really wants to be involved in this. So we're going to focus on Senate, we're going to focus on, we're going to focus on Congress, we are going to focus on the state houses, we're going to focus on the things that we know can impact our community and remind people, like, okay, so, I mean, we'd even got to the point of, like, listen, if you want to skip the president box on your ballot, we're okay. We understand. That's fine. But please get to the down ballot. That's just kind of where we had gotten to, because everybody was feeling hopeless, right? On both sides, I think. Both sides, all sides. Like, what is this? What is this climate that we're in? And so for that to change around literally 2 weeks later, with one thing happening for one party that was major, and then something else happening for the other major party that was major, it's like, oh, now we got a game. It's like the Super Bowl, right? The Super Bowl, and 2 teams are playing each other and nobody's scoring, and you're like, I'm just watching for these commercials. I want to see the halftime show. And then all of a sudden, somebody scores and the other side scores. Oh, now we got a game. That's how I feel. Now we got a game. This is gonna be fun to watch now. So now the energy is changing. Now, I mean, we've already started getting phone calls. Hey, I want to volunteer for VEEM. What can I do?
Wow.
Yeah. I'm like,
that is great.
So I'm about to get my little fundraising graphics together, because hey, just come on and send, we're trying to make sure we can sustain, right? So while we're waiting on more funding to come in, so we can pay more staff, so that we can do, we can serve the community. But it's just really crazy to watch, Mr. Elwin. Like I said, I have whiplash. Like, whoa, this has changed, and I'm like, whoo. I'm already tired of thinking about it, but it's a good kind of tired. And that's how I think too, and I can go on and on about how when you're in your purpose, and the way that you know it is that when you are working in that purpose and you leave something, a meeting or whatever, and you might walk into it tired, but you walk out feeling energized and all excited, that's how you know. And so that's how I knew. I was like, oh, this is my passion. This is my purpose. Wow, okay. And so that's kind of how we're feeling like, man, we're in our purpose. We're about to get this done. And for VEEM, again, we're nonpartisan. There's a lot of exciting things happening with who's in the race now for president. But there's also the rest of the contests have been exciting. Congressional majorities at the state and the federal level are super important, and they're usually super close. So these type of contests, they aren't going away. And regardless of who actually gets voted in, whoever's in the Congress is going to be the ones who are really being the legislative branch and making the laws that impact ours. So it basically gave it a popularity boost.
Yeah. All right.
It's going to be popular now. So we're going to see more turnout because it's popular to be involved.
So what I would like to do right now, before I forget, is give you the opportunity to share with folks the contact info in case they would like to get involved or send a donation. So
I love it. Yes, thank you for that. So you can, so I will say that we are, VEEM is a small but mighty team. I have, some amazing board members that have hung in here, and, with the ride of being around for 7 years, we have our amazing staff people. And then we have me, the part-time executive director who's still working full-time for the county. And, so we could use the help in doing stuff. Any kind of volunteer, to be honest. It isn't necessarily about knocking doors or encouraging people to vote. Maybe you are, I don't know, an accountant, and you would like to volunteer your accounting services. Maybe you're a graphic designer. Maybe you're what else do I typically need? Maybe you have slots in advertising. There's all kinds of ways to help with VEEM. And then, of course, money's great, too. And so you can follow VEEM on all social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, also known as Twitter, Instagram, and even TikTok. Though I can't say we have a lot of content on TikTok or Twitter right now. Sorry. But Facebook and Instagram, we're pretty popping. So you can follow us at VEEM Pittsburgh, V as in Victor, 3 E's, M as in Milk, Pittsburgh, all spelled out, on all of those platforms. And you will find us. You can also visit our website, www.veempittsburgh.org. You can call the VEEM line or text the VEEM line, 412-465-0551. If you'd like to donate toward our cause, you should probably call us first and talk about the best way to do that, because we're not trying to get spammed or anything like that. So let's have a conversation. But, you can also look us up on GuideStar, because we are a 501c3, tax exempt. So all donations are tax deductible. So I will actually go ahead and give that contact as well. We can be emailed at veempittsburgh@gmail.com. Our P.O. Box is P.O. Box 23351, Pittsburgh, PA 15222.
Well, okay, then you about got it covered. Like, you even got the USPS, United States Postal Service, put a stamp on it.
Yep. An expensive stamp. They just went up again.
Good thing. I did not know that.
So they're
Okay,
going up. Mhm.
okay. Uh, all right, so the election is in about 100 days.
Yep.
Um, there is this moment is so big, right? Um, I want to take a moment to kind of step back and lift up and remind people, and maybe even inform people, because some people may not know this. Um, you know, I'm an old guy. When I was growing up, there was a class that was required in 8th grade. You did not have a choice about whether or not to take it. It was required, no matter what program you were in, what track you were on. In 8th grade, you had to take civics.
Yep.
And that meant that at the age of 13, for most
Mhm.
people, at the age of 13, you had to learn, okay, about the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial
You did.
branch,
That's right.
okay, at the federal, state, and local levels,
Yep.
right? And local, even that's subdivided because it's county and city or municipality, right? So if you just picture in your mind this grid, you know, um, legislative, executive, judicial, federal, state, county, municipality, you know, that grid, that's like a dozen chunks to
Yep.
that grid.
Yep.
And the responsibility of citizenship is for us to make informed decisions. In Pittsburgh, it turns out to be twice a year because we elected somebody every year.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
But twice a year, 2 days a year, our job is to make an informed decision about who to plug into all of those slots in all of those boxes.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I'm going to go ahead and confess I never gotten really good at it. I strive, but it actually is a lot, right? Um, it's one thing to develop convictions about who should be in the White House. It requires another level of engagement and self-informing to make
Mhm.
a confident decision about who should be a local magistrate,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? Right? Um, and I'll be honest, Miss Formley, I have forgotten where I even meant to go when I started this.
It's all good.
But I think I wanted to just like highlight the challenge of your work in terms of educating voters, right?
Yeah.
And also, well, even more than that, just to challenge each of us individually, because VEEM can only do so much, right?
Mhm.
Any other organization can only do so much. The
Mhm.
parties themselves, they are going to pitch you their candidates and their agendas, but they
Mhm.
are not going to educate you about the process, right?
Correct.
Uh, the press is supposed to do a lot of that, and they're supposed to do a lot of the work of uh, helping us to hold our electeds accountable?
Yep.
You know, we would need a whole separate episode to talk about how well the press is or isn't doing their job. Okay.
Right.
But in the end, it does fall on us as individuals to educate ourselves, especially those of us who didn't get the benefit, as I did, of being
Right.
forced to learn something about it when I was 13 years old, right?
Right.
And honestly, I feel bad, for anybody who was not required to take civics in 8th grade.
Yeah.
Because if I'm in my 20s, okay, and there are millions of people now, like between the ages of 18 and 25, right, for whom this will be like their first presidential election, right?
Yeah.
If I'm one of those people, I don't know how I would even start figuring it out, right?
Yep.
And I don't want to put you too much on the spot. And if you want to pass on this one, you can. But do you have, is there anything that you would be able to say to like a 24-year-old, a 25-year-old, to help them get a start on figuring out this voting thing as like the first step towards adult citizenship?
Yeah, so I think regardless of how old you are, because there is a lot of tendency to say, oh, the young people, but a lot of young people know exactly what they're doing. There's also older people who have decided I'm disenfranchised and I feel away and I'm apathetic and I'm not doing it, right?
Mhm.
So I want to make sure that we're looking at everybody, but definitely the kind of gearing toward the younger folks is social media. And so VEEM social media is chock full of, and that's my reminder that I need to start scheduling posts to get these voter vocabs back up, because we did that series back by the primary, and and it's talking about, well, what is a Senate, U.S. Senate, do? What does the U.S. Congress do? We used to do that all in person at our VEEM voter education sessions, and then we pivoted to being online with the pandemic, and then we tried to bring back hybrid last year, and it's hard to get people to, because of Zoom fatigue and real life fatigue, it's hard to get people to want to, so we've kind of pivoted a lot of our voter education information online, to sharing our posts.
Okay.
So the average voter that, or the average person who follows VEEM that may feel like they don't know how they can help, or they don't know how to encourage people to vote, sharing that type of information, of educational information that is telling you what is this role and who do we need to fill it. Or, and we say it all the time, like, electing somebody is like hiring somebody for a job. You can't interview somebody for a job or hire them if you don't know what the job is. We got to know what the job is. And so, and I didn't know what the job was. I went off of, the big stuff, and then I went to name recognition.
Mm-hmm.
But before I got involved in VEEM, that's what I did. And so we offer services like that. There's also a lot of our partners do so much work. I'm going to shout out the League of Women Voters of Greater Pittsburgh. They maintain a website called vote411.org, and they actually get in touch with every single candidate, and they send them a questionnaire. Now, every candidate doesn't always respond, but the candidates that do, they have their responses right there on the screen in vote411.org, and it lets you do like a little sample ballot and lets you read through the responses of the potential candidates. And so last in the primary was pretty crowded with a lot of people running, especially at the state Congress level for the state Senate and the state House. And so it was really nice to be able to see, like, there's 4 people. And we also have state officers like PA Treasurer, PA Auditor General, PA Attorney General, right? All of those things are on our ballot. And there was a lot of people running at the primaries. And so trying to narrow down which Democrat or which Republican is the one that I align most with. Those type of things are really helpful. Those type of resources are really helpful. And the other thing that I recommend people do, and it does take a little bit of work, but you could follow all these candidates online, and you can ask them, what do you stand for? What are your points? You like, and it does take work, and sometimes we don't want to do the work. Sometimes we want the easy button. I can't tell you how many people hit me up on election day and say, Maryn, who should I vote for? Because I don't know. I'm not paying attention. And then I tell them, go call your cousin, call your grandma, call your friends.
Right.
Don't call me.
Right.
Don't call me, because I'm nonpartisan. I'm not supporting the candidate. I'm not doing that. Like, I don't want VEEM's reputation, whatever. But also because no, I don't know really what you're like. We're cool, but maybe our values are different. You need to check in with somebody who got the same values as you and see who they're voting for. You know, and I can tell you that they're saying this about this person, they're saying this about that person. You make the choice, right? And so I think it's just up to us to stay plugged in. And if we don't know, we need to ask somebody. And so one thing that VEEM does always do, and we haven't quite set dates yet, but coming up on our anniversary weekend, which is September 30th, is our VEEM anniversary. We are planning we're planning some party stuff, but we're also probably going to try to pull together a candidates event sometime between the Meet the Candidates. It's our favorite thing to do. In the springtime, we had brunch with the candidates. This time coming up, I don't know what our theme is going to be, but we will feed you, and we will invite every single candidate that's going to be on your ballot, minus Kamala and Donald Trump. We're not inviting them. I'm not interested in the Secret Service. Nope. I'm going to tell you right now, we're not inviting them. But we will invite Casey. We'll invite McCormick. We're going to invite, Fetterman. We're inviting Summer Lee. I should name some more Republicans. Sorry. They don't always cry. I be trying to follow. I follow everybody on social media. All these candidates, I follow all of them, so that I can start to see their stuff in my algorithm, but also so I can make personal connections. Say, hi, I'm Maryn from VEEM. Please come on down. Please come to our Meet the Candidates, right? Because I become a person to them. I'm not just a potential voter, but I am a person. So, it says our meetings at the end. Huh?
And an influencer.
Yeah. And, I am that, but they might not know me. So I'm just trying to, make a personal plea. Like, hello, will you come? Because a lot of times our emails go to spam. Because we email all these people. We go find their email addresses. We do a whole lot of work to try to get those people there, but we don't always hear back. So if I don't hear back, I'm in their inbox on their campaign page on Messenger. I think I'm still getting stuff from when Dr. Oz ran for Senate. I had to sign up for Dr. Oz emails because I was like, well, he's running, so I got to invite him.
There you go.
I never did. I put something in the form letter. They never did respond, but they put me on their mailing list, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, I'm plugged in now. I'm plugged in now, So, but yeah, we invite everybody though, and then too, also important to remember is that what I try to tell people is that people will shame you for not voting with a major party, but you also have the right to join the party that aligns with your values, or if you don't want to join the party, you can vote for the person that aligns with your values, regardless of their party. So there's going to be Republican and Democrats, and they get all the fanfare. But we have Green Party in Pennsylvania. We have Libertarians in Pennsylvania. I believe we still have the Keystone Party of Pennsylvania. There's also going to be independents, right? We got, I guess RFK is still running at the presidential level, but there are these independent candidates, and so they're not going to have the same size of team who's going to be texting you and calling you and doing all this other stuff the way that you're getting spammed by, probably Republican and Democrats, right? But that would be up to you, and especially, again, it's about checking in with your own heart and about what makes sense for you, and look to see what these other candidates are, and then also recognizing that for November, You can be whatever party you want to be, and you can vote for whatever party you want to vote for in every single election. If I want to go Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Keystone, Democrat, Libertarian, if that's what I want to do, I can do it in November, because that's my business, as our friend Tabitha Brown said, because that's my business. I do what I want to do. Now, at the primary, I have to be registered as a member of the major party, and then I can only vote for people who are in my party, right? So that's another misnomer that people don't know. So I like to also encourage people that, like, you might feel a way about, how much campaign money, right? It's really cool and also really disgusting how many millions of dollars were raised for these campaigns, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's disgusting, right? But there's unhoused people on the street. There's, cancer still needs to be cured. There's a lot of stuff, right, where this money could be going, and you might feel a way about that. There are parties that also feel a way about that and don't want money in campaigns. So maybe it's an opportunity. So that's something else we do at VEEM. We not only try to bring the candidates to you, we try to educate you about these other parties and other parts of the system that kind of don't reach the limelight that you may not know about, but that might actually be that make you, and that's where that enrichment piece comes in. That's why that third E is there, because enrichment is, what am I getting out of this? How is this impacting my life? Did I go to the poll and go vote, and the lady at the table was really mean to me, and now I don't want to go back because she was mean? Like, that type of stuff, that's where the enrichment comes from. So, because we know that, regardless if you're educated and regardless if you're empowered to vote, if your experience with it has been ugly, you're not going to go back. So we want to talk through that. We want to try to bring that out as well. So that enrichment piece is also important to us.
Wow, I am so glad that you touched on that, because it would have been easy for me to miss it or not get to it. So thank you. And I also want to back up a little bit to also appreciate what you said about the parties. I mean, I'm looking at the clock, right? Because I can feel a rant coming on. I don't want to do a whole rant, but the way that our Constitution lays out our electoral process.
Mm-hmm.
The first point I'll make is that it's different from the way it works in other countries.
Yep.
Right? The term democracy is a pretty broad kind of term,
Mm-hmm.
and it's broad enough so that we need to realize there are different kinds of democracies,
Yep.
right? And some people will even argue using that word at all, say we're a representative republic. Yeah, okay. But you go to Europe, you go to Britain or France, and you'll see a parliamentary, right, democracy, where in any given election, you might have candidates from half a dozen different parties who all have an equal shot.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Yep.
The way that our Constitution set things up, it doesn't require, but it creates by default a two-party system.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so what we wind up is experiencing is this two-party system. And over the years, right, a lot of people have expressed or experienced a lot of discontent.
Yep.
With how the parties operate practically, right?
Yep.
The stuff they actually do, but also in some cases, discontent and disagreement with the party's actual philosophies, right?
Yep. Yep.
So in America, we have grown a whole bunch of what are called third parties, right? And you mentioned a couple, like, okay, Green Party, Libertarian Party, Socialist Party. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't know how long the list is. There are a bunch of them.
Yep.
Uh, and the political discourse in our country revolves around the two parties so much that, as you mentioned, some people, a lot of people, try to shame folks for voting third party, right?
Yep. Yep.
And I'll speak from my own experience in the particular circles in which I tend to move. People blamed third party voters
Yep.
for Donald Trump's victory in 2016
Mhm.
because, in fact, number one, the Electoral College elected Donald Trump.
Right.
Okay, that's just the plain fact. He lost the popular vote by about 3 million votes.
Yep.
Right? But number two, that Electoral College victory happened because of his victory in specific states, actually, right?
Yep.
It's like
Yep.
Wisconsin, Ohio. I forget.
Yeah. Maybe Michigan and then taking Pennsylvania, something like that.
Yeah, like a
Mhm.
handful of states. And the thing is, he secured those electoral college votes in those states by really thin margins,
Small
right?
margins. Yep.
Um, and so a lot of people for 8 years have been piling on third-party voters, right?
Right.
Saying, you lost us the 2016 election. Now, number one, I think that's BS
Yep.
because you add together all of the third-party voters, and I don't remember now even what the number was, but
Yep.
I do know this: something like 100 million people did not vote at all.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's exactly it. It's those registered voters who were like, I'm not dealing with this at all.
Okay.
That is the population. That's exactly the population, and that's who it is. Really, every time that group of people has the most power, and they just won't. They don't realize it. I guess they don't. They don't realize that what their collective power could do, and how it could overturn things. But yeah, it's definitely not third party. And I would say that for me, I believe that competition breeds that brings everybody up.
Mm-hmm.
And so that competition, so Republicans, get on your game and go recruit. Democrats, get on your game and go recruit.
Yeah. And
Or you wouldn't have to deal with this.
and yeah, I'm getting stuck. This is not supposed to happen when you're hosting the podcast. You're supposed to be fluid at all times. But it it actually makes me angry when those folks try to shame and blame third party voters because number one, and I'm just referring to 2016 specifically, if the Clinton team had done their job better, they would have gotten enough of those 100 million people, right, to turn things the other way. So that's number one. But number two, uh, going back to your original point about parties and how to make your decisions as a voter, even if you aren't as well informed as you would like to be, You know,
Yes.
follow your heart with what you do know.
Yep.
If that means voting for a libertarian, you vote for that libertarian.
Yep.
If that means voting for a Green Party person, you vote for that Green Party person. And if
Yep.
that means voting Republican in this box and Green in that box and Libertarian in another box, then you make those votes in those individual boxes.
That's right.
Because, number one, you need to be able, as you grow into full adult citizenship. I think I want to trademark that phrase because I haven't heard anybody use it, and I think there's a lot of power in it. Okay,
Mhm.
I think most of us have no idea what full adult citizenship is,
Yes.
but as we grow into that, okay, um, and truly exercising your autonomy, your responsibility, and I'll even say sovereignty as a voter, because
Mhm.
all of these people out there work for you, they work for us, right? Okay.
That's right. That's right.
Well, we are the ones in charge. There is no higher title in America in our civic life than the title of citizen. And
That's right.
I am going on a rant, aren't I? But you know, it is your God-given right and your constitutionally given right and responsibility to
Mhm.
vote with the highest degree of integrity
Yes.
possible.
Yes.
So, you vote for whoever you feel most confident and comfortable and sincere about voting for. You
Yep.
know, um, yeah. That's And I'm pretty sure this would be the last piece of my rant. We also need to remember that the two parties we have now have not always been there.
That's
Okay.
right.
The
That's right.
Constitution did not, number one, the Constitution did not decree that there would be two parties, but it set things up so that they wind up creating two parties. And it
Yes.
definitely does not say what the two parties are going to be.
Word. That's right.
Okay. Now, you just go to Wikipedia and look at the history of political parties in the United
Yep.
States. Political parties have come and gone.
Yep.
And here's the thing, if you are like massively dissatisfied with both parties, okay, you might need to, number one, you can just go ahead and vote for the party that most strongly reflects your own beliefs. But number two, maybe you negotiate with yourself and say, okay, I'm going to vote for the party that I really want in this election. But in this election, I'm going to vote for the party that I think is closest to what I want to help them win. Because the party
Yep.
that I really want is not going to make it up here,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
All right. The party that I really want, I might be able to get a magistrate in. I might be able to get
Yes.
a member of city council in, right?
Yes.
I'm not going to get
Yes.
that with the party that I really want. But
Yes.
here's the thing: you vote as often as you can for the party that you really want, and
Yes.
that's how you build the party.
Exactly. Because
Do
those votes
do
matter.
do that for a decade or two, and your party might become one of the two major parties.
That's right.
Because neither Republican nor Democrat have to be here forever.
That's right.
Okay,
That's
so
right.
yeah,
Yep. You
and
got it.
and honestly, the way things have been shook up the last 10 days, okay,
Might be a brand new popular party tomorrow. We don't know.
you
We don't
know,
know what's going on.
I mean, we could have a whole significant turnout by 2028, right?
Yep. Yep.
Mhm. So uh, that's that. Yeah, rant over. I invite you to respond if you would like.
Yeah, no, you hit it right on the head, and I feel like I interrupted the rant quite a few times. So I'm okay, because you really did, talk about it, and yeah, don't let anybody shame you. And also, though, too, we have to be careful about shaming people who don't want to vote, and more so talking about, okay, well, if you don't want to vote for that, then what will you vote for? What does matter for your everyday life? Because maybe you don't care about none of the other stuff because it doesn't matter to you, but maybe you got a kid in school and you need you want more bus routes, like, so it's just kind of getting to like what is important to you. And I feel there's actually some religions who and some local and national religions who don't vote, and you end up encountering those people too. And
Right.
I thought today, I said, I kind of actually feel bad for y'all because
Mm,
you've been told by your particular religion that with poorly worded Bible quotes or
mm,
poor quotes that aren't really valid
mm,
about give to Caesar what is Caesar's, give to God what is God's, right? That's one that they try to pull out, and I'm like, yeah, but he didn't say don't pay Caesar. He said
right.
that this is here and that's here, but you still supposed to do both things. Do
Both
both
ways.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's also you have a spiritual duty to do what you can for the environment that you live in. You're supposed to take care of the widows, take care of the poor, take care of the orphans. How you gonna do that if you don't want to participate in government
Mm,
at a bigger level? Because
mm,
it's the government that is the one who's gonna have to. So it's just something about and that's where relationship building and organizing matters. And by talking and building relationships with people to try to understand their whys. It can't just stop with I don't vote. Okay, you want to talk about it more? No. If you don't, that's fine. But also, I'm
mm,
here. I'm here to talk about it. Tell
mm,
me what are the things that are important to you? Is it the violence in your neighborhood? Is it the potholes on your street? Regardless of what type of neighborhood you live in. So just trying to find that thing that matters to you,
mhm.
and maybe that helps a person who doesn't vote actually become a voter instead of saying like, "Oh, you're terrible. I can't believe you didn't vote." That doesn't help anybody vote. They don't care.
That doesn't help. It
We're
doesn't
adults.
work. It doesn't work.
We're
Um,
adults. So what?
right, right, right. And a common point of view expressed by non-voters is um, my vote doesn't matter, right?
Right.
And and honestly, sometimes it can be hard to persuade them otherwise. Sometimes it can look and feel like. Sometimes it looks and feel like they're right, right?
Right.
Uh,
Right.
and I just recently arrived at a place myself that I think will be helpful going forward if I ever have the opportunity to have that particular conversation, which is, you know what? You you actually may be right in a way, because maybe your vote doesn't matter or my vote doesn't matter, but our votes matter,
Yes. Together.
right?
Yes.
Okay. So all of my life, civic discourse has revolved around the right and the responsibility of casting a vote.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the summit of civic life, political life, casting your vote. But there's a level I've recently been thinking about, a level like above that, beyond that, which
Mhm.
is getting together with other people and using your own individual agency and power and influence that you may have with family members,
Right.
friends,
That's right.
neighbors, to encourage them to vote.
Yep.
Okay, you can become the most powerful representative for your particular point of view and for the particular person that you want to vote for. Talk with your family, friends, neighbors, co-workers. So, if you exercise the power that you do have, which is the power to share with people in your circle, if you exercise that power, right, you could wind up making more of a difference than you can imagine.
Right.
So, yeah, there is that.
Yeah.
You touched on, well, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that when you mention people who don't vote, that reminded me also of another whole area of engagement, if you will, that is largely uncultivated. And again, this is a nonpartisan conversation, but
That's right.
I am going to refer to something that Kamala Harris said, if I can find my note, because I wrote it down. And now, of course, I'm not finding it, so I'm going to rough it. But she said something to the effect of, I think it was about growing the middle class. The growth of the middle class is the growth of America.
Oh, okay.
The point being that, in her, if she becomes president, she wants to focus on like aiding, assisting, helping the middle class, right? Now, I happen to be quoting or referring to Kamala Harris, but candidates of both parties have said that at different times. Candidates of both parties at different times have made an appeal to the middle class and have made, kind of like promises to the middle class, or have claimed to represent or to intend to represent the middle class, right? I've heard those type of references like forever. What I have not heard that I can recall is a candidate making a promise to or declaring an intent to represent the poor.
Right.
And I mentioned that to lead up to this. Reverend Dr. William Barber, Barber, look him up, please, has for years been doing an annual pilgrimage to DC.
For People's Campaign, yes.
Which is actually an extension of the work that the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King did.
That's right.
Way back when. The Poor People's Campaign.
Yep.
And I encourage you to go ahead and go on YouTube, look it up, because the video's there. And in the most recent visit, which was either last month or 2 months ago, it was recent, he pointed out that poor people make up poor and low income working people, because we have to force ourselves to recognize that it is very easy to have a job in America and still not have enough to live on. Okay?
Yep.
So,
Keep talking.
Okay.
Mhm.
But poor and low income workers make up a large chunk of non-voters,
Yep.
and they don't vote because they because life has taught them that elected people don't represent them.
That's right. That's right.
And they are entrenched in that belief.
Yep.
And that belief is reinforced with every single campaign speech and every single press conference that does not mention the poor.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So all of that is on my part. I'm saying all of that to say that any candidate, Republican, Democrat, heck, Green, Socialist, Libertarian, any candidate who could mobilize the poor, could
Yeah.
tap into that population, poor and low
Yep.
income earner population, could win
Yep.
just by doing that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
In 2016, you know, um, I'm, I- I'm sorry, I shouldn't have even tried to do it because I'm not remembering the actual numbers. I'm just remembering percentages. Um, the difference between Trump and Clinton was really three 3 million votes, right? But
Yes.
in terms of the total number, that's still a small margin. Um,
Yeah.
like she got like 26%, he got like 25%, whatever.
Yep.
But
Yep.
but
Yep.
but again, the majority of people didn't vote at all. You know,
Yeah.
someone who really goes after that population could, you know,
Yeah. So bad. Yeah.
could
Mhm.
get 30% of the electorate.
Yep. Yep. Easy.
So
Mhm.
now that's an observation, and you've been nodding and agreeing. So you're out there in the field. Uh, Tell me what you see and hear in terms of specifically low income folks, poor folks, you know, and the degree to which they do or don't feel like they're represented, and therefore
Yeah.
it's worth the trouble to even vote.
Yeah. I think it's hard. Well, number one, I think that nowadays we are getting more maybe strati, in our socioeconomic statuses. So you
Mm,
really kind of can't go from, you know, poor, working poor, middle class, upper middle, you know. I honestly think there's so much that's entrenched with our values and generations now that it is hard to even think about. So for us, I'll give you an example. So for VEEM, I talked earlier about the fact that we are focused on Ward 13, which is Homewood and East Hills. And one of the ways that once we got there and we started digging into the data, we actually found that the average highest turnout in the county, one of the highest turnouts in the county, and one of the lowest turnouts in the county both exist in Ward 13, which is
wow.
maybe, a couple of miles. And
Yeah.
so on the high end, you have the wards, the precincts where you have homeowners, longtime homeowners who are a part of their community, and, it's theirs and they have pride in it, and they're voters and their family works the election, like they have a history and all of that. When you look at the lowest turnouts, it is those that have majority subsidized housing.
Mm, okay.
And so, and then we talk about the fact that, like, it, when regards to like who's actually going to be more impacted, by the decisions of lawmakers and not have any protections is the people who are in government housing and in those type of programs, because they're the ones who are going to cut funding, give funding, right? Like that's who it'll impact first. They'll eventually get around the taxes and stuff like that, you know, people who aren't in that situation, but you know, they set the food stamp budgets. They set what the income guidelines, what poverty guidelines are going to be, whether school lunch is going to cost, you know, there's so many little things, right, that legislators and our elected officials are deciding upon that you may have more impact on you if you are living in a subsidized housing situation. So, but what we found, though, is that even after years, the last few years, when we first started, that subsidized housing community was below 10% in turnout. And then over the last 7 years, up until 2023, we and the other organizations who work in this field of work have been able to raise the standard, raise the bar, and have been able to double and get those precincts even above 20% in every election.
Wow.
Until 2023. 2023, all of a sudden, that neighborhood started trending back down. And we're like, okay, what's going on? And then we thought it was just the primary. Then, you know, we elected a whole county executive. We're like, okay, nope, still kept trending down. This last primary, we're back in single digits in that neighborhood. And so VEEM is working hard with other community partners that are serving that area. Like, okay, well, what are y'all doing to get to these folks? Because they're in subsidized housing. They need to do recertifications. There's family support centers. There's all these people, right, that are up there that need to engage this community. So what can we do to get to them? The old ways that we used to do are not working anymore. So you kind of used to be able to say, hey, we're going to have free lunch, free dinner. We're going to give away gift cards. We're going to raffle off. Not this new generation. They're in subsidized housing, but their poor is not the same as our poor in maybe in our generations. Not quite sure what it is. Not, you know, I don't quite know. Maybe it's because they have other sources and resources that they can use to get, and I think it's just kind of, you know, with millennials and Generation Z, the traditional stuff doesn't work. You can't just tell me to go because I'm supposed to. You can't just tell me to go to work and get a job and deal with this abuse on this job because I'm supposed to. It doesn't work for them. They need more motivation. So now what we're all trying to do is brainstorm, how do we go about getting to that population? What is going to motivate them? What do they actually care about? What do they want? What's important, right? Quality of life. Like, there's so many things to like try to like figure out. And so I say that because I can't even say that because of that level of change, I don't know that we know enough to know what's going to motivate for presidential candidates to say, let me go motivate the poor people. This new generation of poor is not the same generation of poor that we used to have, where you could kind of throw money at them and say, hey, or throw food, or, you know, let's give out food, let's do this, let's give away sneakers, let's give away book bags, right? Some stuff we've always been doing to help the community, that generation don't really care nothing about that. Because they have ways to get it. I don't know what them ways are. I could guess, but that would be all conjecture, right? But yeah, they don't need our programs to do anything for them. And so we need to be, and this is what every organization, not just voting rights organizations, every organization needs to really start thinking about what can we do, what does motivate this generation, what do they care about? Because in this neighborhood, you got a whole bunch of young parents with little kids. So maybe they care more about what the kids can have. Maybe they were, we got to figure out what it is, because the regular, like, come eat lunch and we'll give you a $25 gift card to Giant Eagle, ain't working.
Okay.
It don't work. So the campaigns, if they're going to approach it to go seek for the poor people, they're going to have to think about who the poor really are, who the working poor really are, and what their motivation is. That was my very long answer to your question.
Oh dear. Well, I wish that I felt more confident about any party's ability to figure out all of that in the next 100 days.
Right.
But maybe somebody will figure it out by 2028.
Perhaps.
Okay. Well, Ms. Formley, we have been on longer than I intended. I mean, I didn't set myself a hard deadline or anything, but it's almost an hour and a half.
Yep.
That's because, number one, I find you so engaging, and number two, you've been you've indulged me a lot and letting me go off a little bit here and there. I really appreciate this time that we've had together. Perhaps we'll be able to check in with one another again sometime between now and the big day in November, just to get a sense of how things are flowing and what we might need to do halfway through to get some more folks, at least signed up, at least get some folks registered. But again, for any folks who didn't catch it the first time, this has been about an hour and 24 minutes, I don't know, with Maryn Formley of VEEEM Pittsburgh, and that's voter education, empowerment, and enlightenment and mobilization.
No. Those are really good letters. Voter empowerment, education, and enrichment movement.
Enrichment. Okay. Enrichment movement. Okay.
I like enlightenment mobilization. I might start using that. Because it's important.
Well, okay. But again, thank you for this time, and all you folks out there watching on YouTube, you know what to do. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, because you're not going to want to miss a single episode of Mic Drops as we move into the future to change the doggone world through powerful conversations. Thank you, Ms. Formley. You have yourself a great night, and everybody else out there, y'all take care.